Hello wonderful people of the internet and welcome back to Hysteria Gaming. It's Tommy here and I'm bringing you another episode of Let's Chat, in which I take the proverbial script and notes that I may have for a normal commentary, tear them up, put them in the bin and set them on fire, and just chat about something that's on my mind. As I promised in my last video for Let's Chat, I will try and keep this video to 6 or 7 minutes because I believe that's probably long enough to send you guys to sleep, so I don't want to waste any more of your electricity than I have to. And the gameplay you can see here is of course Titanfall, which I've had on my hard drive for a little while now, and I find it quite a difficult game to come up with commentary ideas for, but it does tie in with today's topic. Talking of topics, let's get into today, shall we? Before I eat up my entire 7 minutes rambling, what I wanted to discuss with you guys today is gimmicks and how I feel that's adversely affecting the gaming industry, and how that time spent creating gimmicks could be better spent elsewhere. Obviously the games I'm referencing will be ones that I play, and that is because I can relate them to this topic, but you might have a different game that you play that involves, I'm sure, a comparable gimmick. Case in point could be something like Levolution, and I don't want to become this guy who just constantly rants about Battlefield 4, but what does it actually do? Of course the whole thing looks great, I'm not here to deny that. You know, Battlefield is an extremely expensive title. There are a lot of people developing man hours and spending huge amounts of time trying to get this right. But at the end of the day, it's all just a bit of fluff in my opinion. Aside from some of the dynamic weather aspects of, say, Carousel Storm, which I think it does affect the feel of the map, and generally the cover of darkness changes the air warfare and everything like that. I do think that helps, but 9 out of 10 of the Levolution events, do they actually do anything? And we saw with China Rising that they just didn't add any Levolution because, despite what they said, I mean ultimately it's just because it's too time intensive, it's going to cost too much money. They were already on the back foot trying to keep up with all the bugs that Battlefield 4 was generating, and just didn't bother. But is China Rising any worse because of it? Because some tower doesn't fall down in the middle of the map and crash through a hole in the floor or something? Does it make any difference at all? No. And also, you don't get people, 10%, 20% of the player pool on China Rising trying to trigger an event that isn't there. Instead, they're actually playing the game mode, which is exactly what you would imagine the game is for. Levolution was essentially used as a hype machine, via the just general publications from EA and the publicity that Battlefield 4 Levolution received, or via the slightly shady dealings of wrong-queue assignments. It was hugely hyped up to be this game-changing thing, but ultimately it just didn't actually do a lot, and as I've said before, was just a bit of a gimmick. If these developers who poured all these hours and all this money into developing Levolution hadn't bothered, would we have a particularly different game? No. Would those people then have spent more time actually making the game stable? Quite possibly yes. And we would have had a more stable game, and therefore quite possibly a more fun and enjoyable experience whilst playing Battlefield 4. I can understand the marketing side of it. Levolution was clearly the USP that EA and DICE used to sell Battlefield 4. It's what all the adverts concentrated on, it's what the wrong-queue campaign was based on, the Levolution, and it sold a shitload of copies of games. So it did its job, but my argument is, does it actually make the game any different? Would the game have been any different without Levolution? Mainly no. Again, I want to reiterate, guys, I'm not here to hate on Battlefield 4. I would love the game just to be normal, and I'm just here to argue that had we not spent so much time building these gimmicks, and if developers didn't feel pressured into providing gimmicks in games, we could have a much more stable, enjoyable game. And whilst I'm at it, what the hell is with all the camos for weapons? When do we get to the point that I need 50 camos for my SV98? What the hell was wrong with the green one in Bad Company 2? Nothing. Sometimes I'm on my loadout screen and I'm kind of expecting Tim Westwood or Exhibit to pop up for an episode of Pimp My Gun. And kind of like, yo dog, I hear you want some camo on that camo, bro. It's ridiculous, man. Do we really need it? We're in a generation now where we're getting Snoop Dogg to pop up and narrate over our kill streaks. Kind of a Tommy Tizzle's on a kill streak, killing that fizzy dizzle. Do we really need that, guys? Come on. It's absurd. So Hysteria, I hear you ask, why the hell are you showing Titanfall, and what on earth does this have to do with your commentary? Well, I'm putting it here because I feel that it falls at the polar opposite of the end of the spectrum. and I think that's a good thing. You know, Respawn have poured their heart into creating a core FPS shooter. No fancy frills and gimmicks, it is created just to be a pure out and out shooting game, which, forgive me if I'm wrong, but isn't that the whole point of FPS games? Yet it continues to create this huge negativity in the gaming community, and I'm struggling to understand why. I mean, people are hating on it with A, without even playing it, and B, for being basic, and yet Bad Company 1 and Bad Company 2 were both extremely basic in their nature in terms of weaponry, attachments and game modes, and yet were applauded for being outstanding FPS games. What makes Titanfall so different? I actually applaud Respawn for going back to basics, and I think it's really paid off for them. Is Titanfall worse off as a title just because it doesn't have some big collapsible chimney stack that falls across the map, usually into impenetrable pieces due to the very poor coding? No. Or is it any worse off because it doesn't have some giant boat that comes and parks on top of the flag, making it more annoying to take, so you end up just not bothering, and the boat itself becomes some giant Sasquatch convention? You know, it's like Wookiee Wars up there. I just tend to stay away from areas like that. Absolutely no, I do not believe that Titanfall lacking these features makes the game any worse. Anyway guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm knocking precariously close to that 7 minutes mark, so I'd really like to hear your thoughts. Of course, these are just my random musings. I don't expect everyone to agree with me, which is where you guys come in. Let's create a discussion. Are you someone who would prefer, like me, to have a no-frills FPS type game? Or are you someone who's quite happy to spend extra money on DLC so you can dress your character up as Cinderella and shoot, you know, jelly babies and marshmallows out of your AEK? I'd love to hear your thoughts, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a rating, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Take it easy.